Potential trouble brewing in the tropics as we head into November. We're going to touch on that as well as the overall weather pattern. First, if you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button. Help this channel to grow. Would greatly appreciate that, and thank you to everyone who has subscribed so far. But let's get right into it. So we did a video last week, and we talked about early November, tropics trying to wake back up. And that threat is still very much alive and well. So here we're taking a look at the sea surface temperatures. You can see in the Caribbean, which is this threat does come to fruition. This is where it's going to start. It's going to start in the Caribbean, which as we get into November, not unusual at all. You see sea surface temperatures plenty warm. 30 degrees Celsius is very warm. Really, you want to be 26 degrees Celsius and above to support tropical development. And here we are, 30 degrees Celsius, so very warm sea surface temperatures. And then if you notice, right along the northern Gulf Coast, the Gulf Coast of Florida, and then up into the southeastern part of the United States, water temperatures are cooling a little bit. So, if we do get something coming into the coast, it's going to be hard for it to maintain its intensity unless it's moving very fast, or just doesn't have that time to weaken. But outside of the coast, sea surface temperatures are still warm enough to support tropical development and maintain a tropical storm or possibly a hurricane. So I'm going to pop over to the models now. We're going to take a look at this threat. So this is the GFS. This is the 6Z run, so earlier today. And I'll put this at 18Z on Wednesday. So this is Wednesday afternoon. So this is next Wednesday, October 30th. And you can see low pressure there off the coast of Central America in the Caribbean. And we'll go ahead, we'll put this into motion so you can see what the model does here with it. Strengthens it into a hurricane, kind of runs it into Jamaica, pulls it west and then north into Cuba, and then brings it into the hard-hit Gulf Coast of Florida. And this would be, and this is now Monday, November 4th, and then brings it up into the southeastern part of the United States, and then actually up into the mid-Atlantic and the northeast. And then notice the time frame on that. So this is now the day before election day, and then election day as it moves into the northern mid-Atlantic and the northeast. So let's hope that's not the case. Now this is it's still a long ways out there, so a lot still to be determined with this thing. Again, still a threat at this point, not a forecast, but that would be big news, obviously, with a hurricane coming in on or just before election day, and that's would certainly be a big story there. So that's the GFS. Now that was the 6Z run. If we pop over to the 12Z, kind of slows down the timing a little bit. So this is now Monday, November 4th, and it hasn't hit Florida yet, so this is now Wednesday, November 6th, so I'm kind of delaying that impact a little bit, so that would be better, for everyone who's kind of waiting for election day to vote. So that would be Wednesday, November 6th, so that's a couple runs in a row now where it's showing a pretty significant storm hitting the Florida Gulf Coast and then actually moving it north into the Carolinas and then possibly further north after that. So that was just two runs of the GFS. Let's pop over to the GFS ensembles. So again, the GFS ensembles, the GFS run at a lower resolution just runs it like 31 times. So you get different model outputs, and then you try to look for trends with those outputs here. So this is Wednesday, so pretty consistent with developing something in the Caribbean off the coast of Central America sometime early to mid part of next week. So the GFS ensembles are agreeing with that. And then as we go forward into time, this is now Saturday, so this is not this weekend, but next weekend. And then from it's just south of Cuba, and then from there, the GFS is indicating there's still plenty of solutions left on the table. Some of these models, and I'll put it forward so you can see, some of them go out to sea towards Bermuda. Some of them bring them north into the Florida Keys and South Florida, and then some bringing it further north into the northern Gulf Coast. So still lots to be determined at this point. It's a threat that still has legs at this point, very much alive. So fortunately, plenty of time to watch. So we're gonna continue to put updates forward, in the future in regards to this threat here. So that's it for the tropics right now. I'm gonna just take a look at the overall weather pattern. So we're going to have a pretty big warm-up as we go into this weekend, and then early next week, major warm-up in the central part of the United States. Look at that, well above normal temperatures. And then that will kind of push eastward and southeastward as some cooler air starts to infiltrate. And I think that the MJO has been a pretty big driver of the pattern right now. So I'm going to pop over to the MJO real quick just to show you what's going on with that. So the MJO, which has been in phase 5, is moving now into phase 6, and then we'll kind of speed through phase 6 and move into phase 7. And if we take a look, when the MJO is in phase 5, you get some cooler temperatures. I mean, remember last week there's some cooler temperatures in the eastern part of the United States, mid-Atlantic, southeast, which you would expect in phase 5. And then as we move into phase 6, you would expect warmer temperatures centered over the central part of the United States, which is what the models are suggesting. Pretty big warm up next week in the central part of the United States. And as we move into phase 7, that should shift towards the southeast, and then we should see some cooler air penetrating into the northern part of the United States. And if we go back over to the GFS, that's what it looks like. Look at that big warm up centered over the central part of the United States. As we head into early next week, that then shifts to the southeast, and then some cooler air tries to move in, and then it looks like maybe a little bit of a moderation. I am a little bit skeptical about the moderation shown here, because if this MJO wave holds its strength and maintains it into phase 8, we'll pop over and take a look at what you would expect in phase 8. You would expect some cooler temperatures in a good part of the country, northern part of the country, really outside of the south, and Texas, the deep south, over to Florida. So we'll see. I think the models are still trying to catch on to this, and it's still a little ways out there. So as you get into 360 hours, the models just really aren't that accurate. So I would not be surprised to see the model start to cool as we go into the longer range. And then something interesting. Let's pop over to kind of the super long range here. You can see this is the GFS ensembles at 500 millibars, and it looks like it's trying to build in a negative NAO, which has some pretty big impacts as far as the sensible weather in the United States, and it also looks like it's trying to build a ridge in the western part of the country. So I have been targeting November as a month where we see a significant pattern change, and the models are trying to still catch on to this, but it'll be interesting to see where this goes forward, because of western ridge, North Atlantic oscillation, if that pattern holds into November and then into December, could set up for a wild start to the winter. But hit that subscribe button. I'm going to have more videos about that going forward. That's it for today. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.